Will the Bengals slow down King Henry and his fellow stars? Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien with allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals Talk. And yes, it's Bengals, it's Titans this Saturday. And the Bengals defense, well, they need to come up big. And all season long, it seems like they've exceeded expectations. They've certainly exceeded my expectations. I think most people didn't think they were going to be as good as they've been this year. But they're going to be tested by three very, very big skill players, one of which probably going to the Hall of Fame. A second one could go to the Hall of Fame. And then the third one, the youngest, A.J. Brown, very well could as well. But we'll get to the receivers, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in just a second. But first, we got to start with Derrick Henry. There's a reason people call him King Henry. It's because he's a beast. You know, whether it's the fact that he's 6'3", 240 pounds, or runs extremely, extremely fast and has breakaway speed, which is so rare for a guy his size, or the fact that he hasn't played since Halloween, and yet he is 12th in the NFL in rushing yards with 937 yards. So the Titans, they've been banged up all year. They've had one of these guys out, it seems like, the entire season. Derrick Henry, like I said, hasn't played in over, November, December, 2.5 months. Julio Jones has been banged up, and it's really been bad luck for him as he gets older. And the same thing goes with A.J. Brown, who didn't eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. But let's start with Henry. And he didn't do that, by the way, because of injury. I'm not knocking him for that because he's a really talented receiver. Let's start with Henry, though, because if the Bengals are going to win this game, they have to be at least a speed bump for Derrick Henry. That doesn't, they can win if Derrick Henry runs for 110 yards. That's fine. He could average 5 yards a carry, but they need to stop him in key situations, and they can't give up the big runs, right? You can't have 15-yard run, 15-yard run, 3-yard run, 72-yard run. If you're allowing 4.5 a clip or 4 a clip, and he averages 4.3, you can deal with that. And you look at some of the Pro Football Focus numbers and some of the other analytics sites, Henry's had success getting out to the edge. So as important as the defensive tackle position is going to be in slowing this down, DJ Reader, big week for him. The Bengals just signed Zach Kerr off the Cardinals practice squad on Wednesday. Who knows? Maybe he's active if Josh Tupou can't play, even though Tupou was limited and was back at practice back-to-back days this week. So we'll see about him. But either way, Kerr could get the nod. At the same time, it isn't just about the interior. It's about these ends, and it's about these linebackers going east to west, covering a lot of ground, these cornerbacks. And that's the part of it that kind of goes untalked about, or not talked about nearly as much as I think it deserves to be. And, that means Mike Hilton. That means Chidobe Awuzie. That means all these guys are going to have to play big. They're going to have to tackle. They're going to have success against Henry if you're going to hold Henry to 4.3 a carry, right? And if you're going to make sure he doesn't have those big runs. And it goes without saying, but the safeties as well. So it's a collective team effort. Here are a couple of those members of the Bengals on this matchup. Mike Hilton on what Derrick Henry can do, plus DJ Reader and how big of a week it is for this defense.
He just wears on you. It might seem easy the first, second quarter, but towards that second half, just constantly tackling him, and it definitely wears down on you. And that's what they thrive off of, just constantly running the football, trying to wear you down and just make it difficult for defense to tackle them in the fourth quarter. So we know as a defense, we got to get a lot of heads to the football and gang tackle.
You want to keep them contained as best you can, keep them in between the tackles. But, they're going to have some scheme runs, and we'll have to adjust accordingly. His stiff arm, he's obviously got one of the best stiff arms, probably the best stiff arm in the league. And so you got to understand that when he puts that up, you got to try to, make ways to – we call it swipe on, swipe off techniques to try to get it off of you as fast as you can and try to get within him to grab him and bring him down.
They do some good things in the run game, but we're excited as a D-line. It's a big challenge for us. And it's a challenge, and we're going to go out there and accept, and we're going to go out there and do our thing. So I think everybody's excited about it, but it always starts with us up front. So we got to always create that special moment up front and just create the game going from there. It's going to start and end up front every game. Definitely weighs on he's a big back, but you got to do your job of not letting him get going, getting out there and putting hits on him, make sure we're wearing on him just as much as he's wearing on us.
Mike Hilton is one of my favorites, and one quote that he said on Wednesday that I really liked had to do with Derrick Henry's stiff arm And here's what Hilton had to say about that.
You got to shoot your shot before he shoots his. Everybody know he's a guy. It's gonna take him a couple of steps to get started, but once he gets started, he gets rolling. So as a defender, you got to just be quick to pull your trigger, and hopefully he has success.
It's not just Derrick Henry that this Bengals defense is going to have to worry about. And yes, they have to slow him down. He's also not Superman, even though they call him King Henry. You can certainly do it, right? The Bengals beat the Titans last year. I get it was a different Titans team. Henry still got to 3 figures. He still had a good game. So you can do it. It's possible, right? But they have to push the right buttons. And part of that is the play action game. That's what's scary. Because if you get down and Henry gets moving and running downhill, then the play action game with Ryan Tannehill, it's just scary. I don't want to have to deal with that if I'm a member of the Bengals defense. And a lot of that has to do with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And, Julio Jones might not be the guy he once was, but it's still a challenge, a big challenge to not be able to give the resources over there, right? Because you're paying attention to Henry and you're paying attention to A.J. Brown. By the way, I would imagine that Julio Jones will see a lot of Eli Apple, which name recognition-wise, you're like, holy crap, is that what's going to happen? But I would think so, unless they move him in the slot. AJ, and then he'll see, Mike Hilton then. AJ Brown, I think it'll be Chidobe Awuzie. And, it's going to be a challenge for these guys. They're going to have to hold up. And that's why it's so important to have Trey Hendrickson, who was back at practice on Wednesday. So back-to-back days for him coming off of that concussion. You need to be able to get pressure on passing downs. Obviously, you need to limit the run, but you also need to get some heat on Tannehill. Maybe force some turnovers, make him uncomfortable. Here's Mike Hilton on the Titans' dynamic duo at different parts of their careers. A.J. Brown still on the rise. Julio Jones might be on the decline, but he can still make a difference, could still make some game-changing plays on Saturday.
On the one, he's still Julio Jones. I mean, his resume speaks for itself, so you have to respect what he's done over his career. He might have been slowed down by injuries and stuff, but he's still easily one of the best receivers in football. And then you go to AJ, he's an Ole Miss Rebel, so we have that connection, number one. But he's one of the best up and coming receivers. He's built just like Julio, a strong guy, a run after catch guy, and he brings another physicality that Titan teams live off of. So dealing with those two, we have to be ready, and we have to be able to stop their explosives. That's just what they thrive off of, being the most physical team on the field. When you have that big of two big running backs that size, two receivers that size who are both real good run after catch guys, it's difficult on defense. It's like I said, they just try to wear you down throughout the whole game, and they just live off their physicality. But we're physical on our side of the ball too, so we know we have to match that, and we'll be ready.
A lot of people are going to say, Julio Jones, 32 years old, he'll be 33 next month, only had 1 touchdown on the season. He still averaged 14 yards a catch. And you look, A.J. Brown, 13.8 yards a catch. They miss time, but they've had multiple weeks of practice. I've seen some clips of Julio Jones. He looked damn good, right? Looked like maybe not the old Julio. Hard to tell when you're just running on air. At the same time, this Titans team, they have weapons. And it does start with Derrick Henry. It isn't just Derrick Henry. There's a reason they got Julio. It wasn't to put up big stats in the regular season. It was for games like Saturday, where they may have to go blow for blow with a high-powered offense like the Bengals. And we'll talk about that matchup, the Bengals offense versus the Titans defense, in a different video. But they may have to do that. And they feel more comfortable doing that with Julio Jones on one side, A.J. Brown on the other, Derrick Henry in the backfield. And they have some good tight ends too. Anthony Ferkser can certainly catch the ball and make some plays. And Ryan Tannehill's legs, he's athletic. And no one knows him as well, I think, as Zach Taylor, who coached him in college, coached him with the Miami Dolphins. So that could be an advantage. At the same time, it might not be an advantage, depending. But look, this is going to be a tough game. This is not going to be an easy game for either team. Don't let anybody tell you that. And when it comes to this Bengals defense, I think it's a couple things. One, get off the field early, because like Hilton said, they're going to wear on you and wear on you and wear on you. And if that happens, then you could be looking up in the third quarter down by double digits, and it's the 22 show. It's just Derrick Henry up the gut, Derrick Henry stretch play, Derrick Henry up the gut, Derrick Henry stretch play. That's tough, man. But this is a big Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson game. Can they go edge to edge? like that pizza company that could be sponsoring this video right now. Edge-to-edge toppings, it's edge-to-edge linebacker movement. Can they do that? Because if they can, I think that's going to be big. And then, obviously, speaking of big, you have to gang tackle Derrick Henry. This can't be Logan Wilson versus Derrick Henry because Wilson might win some of those. He's also going to lose some. And that's why you need Hilton, and you need Awuzie, and you need all these guys to step up in the run game. You need Trey Waynes, by the way, to be out there when you need the fourth corner and be ready to pop and ready to hit in the open field when needed. So hopefully these guys can do this. And if you think they can do this, well, you need to go to mybookie.ag right now because that is a one-stop shop for all things NFL playoff betting. And look, the fantasy football season is over, but MyBookie is keeping the excitement alive. The NFL divisional round is here, and you can sign up right now at mybookie.ag. Use promo code BengalsTalk, and you're going to get a double deposit bonus. So whatever you deposit, they're going to double it at mybookie.ag. So you can wager on the Bengals to beat the Titans. You could wager on the Bengals to win the AFC. You could wager on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. All of that in one spot. Plus, they have some prop bets that you can bet on all the other divisional round games, of course. Maybe you think the Rams are going to take down Brady and the Bucks, or vice versa, because that's what I'm rooting for. Look, I'm a Tom Brady. Look, there's Tom Brady right there. So, of course, that's what I'm rooting for. But it doesn't mean you have to bet on them. So you can do it all in one spot. MyBookie.ag. Promo code BengalsTalk. Get a, boom, double deposit. Free money right now at mybookie.ag, promo code BengalsTalk. Look, this is a huge game. We have a ton over the next couple of days between now and game day. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to have another. We already talked to Shane Graham this week. My girl Nicole Zembrote talked to Shane Graham, and good stuff. Check it out on Evan McPherson and so much more. But we have another player from that era. And with all respect, all due respect to Shane Graham, he's a bigger star from that era that's going to chime in on this current Bengals team, what they've done, what they did last week, what they could do on Saturday against the Titans, and so much more. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we have our prediction this week. I'll break down the Bengals offense versus the Titans defense. We're stacked, we're packed, we're loaded. Stay tuned. Thank you for subscribing. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien, signing off right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.